What's up guys, welcome back to another video. The trade idea that we called yesterday ended up being a complete banger. There are two things actually that went in our favor yesterday. One is, remember the news timing? Well, the moment the news hit, boom, we got a super aggressive move, and in like 2 minutes I made 1k, and ultimately I ended up the day with 4.0 secured. And so that marks the 132nd win out of the last 168 trades called on this YouTube channel. All of the live execution was on X, so like guys, feel free to follow me on X if you just want to follow along with these live trades. And secondly, the second thing that went in our favor is, if you guys recall, early in the week on Monday, I basically said that because you have a bullish weekly bias, any opportunity that you get to get into a long underneath the weekly open is an opportunity for you to ride the wave, basically buy low and then sell high. And that's exactly what ended up happening yesterday. If you guys recall, I mentioned that Monday, Tuesday would very likely be some sort of a setup day. And in fact, before the news on Tuesday, it was still, kind of trading below the weekly open. And once the news happened, boom, explosive move to the upside. Like guys, this stuff that I talk about on this channel works. If any of you have followed me over the last 300 days, you know that this works. This has an 80% win rate for a reason. It's super simple, super straightforward. And if you guys would like to learn this system for yourself, you have 5 days remaining to join Blueprint before it closes. All I have to say is that if you have found results from just watching these daily YouTube videos, you are going to get 10 times more results if you actually know A to Z, the full system, plus the fact that you can follow along with my live trades, plus the fact that I record a trade breakdown every single day. First of all, I give you an early analysis every single day, but secondly, at the end of every day, I will record a trade breakdown, just like showing like, hey, minute to minute thought process during the live execution. If you've tried all sorts of different things to kind of figure out this game of trading and it's still not working, chances are you just didn't have the right roadmap, you didn't have the right framework. Clearly, this system works. I've demonstrated this over the last, this entire year, basically. Also, just a bit of good news for any of you who have been on the fence with Blueprint. Maybe you're not able to commit $1,000 right off the get-go. We just implemented some payment plans due to very popular demand. Like, we've gotten so many messages of people asking, like, is it possible to make a payment plan? We've added it to the website now, so feel free to just have a look and you can get in for as low as $500. But otherwise, it closes in 5 days. Join if you want, don't join if you don't want. Otherwise, let's get into the analysis for today. Now, kicking things off on Bitcoin, we have a bullish daily bias, which means we're going to be looking for longs today. However, we have FOMC today, as well as interest rates later at 2 p.m. New York. This is significant to mention because chances are we're not going to be getting any sort of movement, or at least not much movement during the New York morning hours. So as you can see right now, even during the London session, it's been incredibly boring so far and nothing much is really happening. And that is by design, because everyone knows that the biggest volatility of the day is going to come around 2 p.m. New York, which means two things. One, I'm probably not going to be posting anything on X today if the trade ends up happening really late in the day, because, well, I live in Asia and it's going to be like 3 a.m. for me. I'm not going to stay up that late for a trade. Now, second of all, if we get some sort of confirmation during the New York morning session, there is still a trade possible. And I'm going to break that down right now. The first scenario is this bearish order block. If we manage to trade above this bearish order block right here, which is at 92.820, if we get an hourly close above this level, it means that we can potentially flip this resistance into future support and we can just start momentum trading this higher once that happens. This is scenario one. Scenario two is that we have a fair value gap right here. Boom. And this is a low that could potentially get swept out, fill in more of the fair value gap before we get a CISD towards the upside. Now, the hours that I'm going to be looking for is between 8 to 10 a.m. This is just a very arbitrary number because I know that news is going to be happening pretty late today, which means that chances are any sort of like large move is going to happen later in the day. But in the morning session, if either one of these two scenarios happen, I'm more than happy to get into some sort of a 2R trade. Not going to be aiming for too much because, again, majority of the volatility is likely to come during the news event. So that is the setup for the Bitcoin going down into the lower timeframes. You can see that, yeah, it's just super choppy so far. London has swept above the Asia so far, and chances are you may just kind of retrace, take out the Asia low before, like, essentially you're going to be trading a New York morning manipulation, which is very common during news days where the news is happening really late. Instead of London being the manipulation, you'll also get a New York morning manipulation before distribution during the New York PM session. This is kind of how it works. So if there is one tip that I would give to you today is, if there is nothing much happening, do not force it. Again, we know that the majority of the volatility is coming at 2 p.m. It means that if there's nothing happening, there's a very good reason why that is the case. You don't want to get chopped out by low probability conditions. That means if you're living in Asia like me, today's going to be a non-trade day, unless you get confirmations during the New York morning session. Then yeah, sure, get into it. Now, to those of you who are lucky enough to be in the US or Europe, well, you get to trade these types of days. Now, one of the other positive things about today is that on USD Canadian, you have news today at 10 a.m., which means that if you are trading Forex, this is a really good opportunity to get into. On the daily chart, you have a bearish daily bias. You have just filled in this bearish fair value gap over here. which also means that on the 1 hourly, like you already have manipulation. So as long as you get a CISD confirmed on the 1 hourly, you're already good to go for any sort of shorts. And this is obviously going to give you an opportunity, like in the New York morning session, to get into a trade. So the CISD is going to happen at 1.38452. And once you get this, boom, boom, you just momentum trade this towards the downside. And this is like, don't sleep on this, especially if you trade Forex. Whenever Forex has news, they move so cleanly, like it's so beautiful. So don't miss out on that. Now let's take a look at Ethereum in terms of the daily buys. You are bullish, of course, and let's just break down kind of like what happened yesterday. If you guys recall, I mentioned that these relatively equal lows were going to get swept. You in fact swept it, and then you got the CISD, and then boom, price explodes. Guys, what can I say? The system works. You've seen it time and time again. It gives you a very easy and a very high probability framework to read the markets. Again, you have been trying to figure this out by yourself and nothing has worked so far. Chances are you've been lacking a system, and what better way to learn a system than to learn a proven one, especially publicly. Like I've tracked every single trade that I've called here on YouTube, on Twitter, live execution. It's for everyone to see and it works clearly. But otherwise, in terms of the 1 hourly chart, let's look for some PD arrays, and there you go. That is a fair bit of gap. And secondly, you have this potential order block here that you're already kind of getting a CISD on. So same situation with Bitcoin, where either you break out and then you just basically flip previous resistance into support, or you sweep out this relative equal lows, fill in the fair bit of gap, and then you get 5-minute CISD in between the hours of 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. That is going to be your trade setup for the day. In terms of Solana, you have a bullish daily close. However, it's looking a little less bullish compared to Ethereum. And going down into the hourly chart, you can see that the CISD has already happened. So in terms of the lower time frame, it's actually looking more bullish compared to Solana. And again, same exact situation. You have relative equal lows there, and you have a fair bit of gap right here. So in the event that you fill this in and you get CISD towards the upside, feel free to get into a 2R trade. Don't hold this for too long if you are entering into the New York AM session, because there is a very high likelihood that, again, the biggest move is going to be happening later during the day, not early. And secondly, since that you've already broken above this one, you can already kind of start looking for a trade. Me personally, I'm not going to look for a trade here because it's still very early in the day. Knowing that news is going to come later means that I'm expecting more manipulation to happen during the New York AM session. So I will only get into a trade basically after I see like clear manipulation during the New York AM session. Either way, I'm going to be posting any live executions on X. Feel free to follow me there. And if you would like to just live trade alongside with me, get all of the trade breakdowns, learn the full system, and ultimately just equip yourself with all of the knowledge that you need to make 10 times more than what you're currently making from trading, this is it, man. Like, it closes in 5 days. It's now or never. And also, I'm having my first blueprint call tomorrow. So ideally, join before tomorrow, hop on the call, and we're going to have a nice Q&A session together. But otherwise, I'll see you guys later on X or tomorrow. Ciao, ciao.